Kanjalo sekuphinde kwabanjalo. Grace and peace. I really hope this finds you well and in good spirits. I'm Themba Lukele, otherwise known as Uskim. Welcome to it. This is Rings and Bearings, where we unpack the issues of life and more. In the building, Vandag Petu Uprapeth, Upetwell. Angazi le gama leli bese kushoda amagama ndoda. Yabona bo Centromentina lamagama lawo angiphathisikhanda la. Bebangibiza ngoJohan. Bathi nguJohannes ngithi ye bafethu lela ngikosho ngalo uGrand Brabeth
Grand wena
ya ngitsona ngwanesi ngiyabona uri ne usharp ngwana mme uthi awulegayo ngwaneso
Kitsoke Lival but original I'm from Mpumalanga
ya uthi sevale sithanda impahla ngiyabona la ukuthi ushaye Medusa ushaye izinja omanje sowula eMasabapi
yeah manje sengila eValley since movile but basically I'm from Mpumalanga
yeah one woman man or uphethe multiple
so far ngisaphethe one but yeah asazi
all right umeli pokoto yeah every dark ngifuna sikhulumele ngoba yilento le yabona ngiza ngayo kanjani sihamba sesigijima ngayo why uthi ngathi
hayi angithi ilento lezi ngizele zona ngizozi unpack because izinto ezenzakalayo and sigcina sesishiya abantwana phezulu kwe-trouble yabona so yeah.
There you are in for a treat, South Africa. So please like and subscribe. There's that button in Saint Studios. Click it, like it, subscribe and comment and you share so that we grow the community. Right, let's get to it, my brother. So what is a will? Because kunento abantu abakhuluma ngayo bathi entonto so ngiyazi kababhaya banokulalela le drama nani. So le drama necessary, drama important. Yabo? Nginokutshela abantu ngithi hey, women are stress. Women are a problem, but they necessary stress and a necessary problem. So now issue a will. What is a will? Explaining to a layman in layman's terms.
A will intando yakho. Lo ufuna ukuthi isale yenzeka wena songekho. So basically it's a legal document. Lo ibhalako usaphila. So ukuthi izinto zakho uzidonate kubobani ufuna sisale nobani. Ilegacy yakho ufuna isale nobani. So ama mistake abantu abawayenzayo they don't understand ukuthi will basitshela ukuthi iwill yabantu aba rich. Yiwile abantu labane ema-property lamaningi izinto lezinjalo so njengoba ubona manje sisigcwelene ama-show amaningi la ema-TV kunobo mamazala bo Riyatota labo ugithi la ifalami manje sekungenele no X-ray so sizama ukuthi sincede i-South Africa ukuthi bakhona ukunderstanda ukubaleka kwe-will because ama-family feuds abantu bayalwa mani kakhulu. People they are fighting.
Into yethu we are characterized ngeviolence. Mawuthi dark ngeke umhlukanise nempi. Balwiswa yini abantu?
Balwisa mafa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Balwisa mafa because uyazi ukuthi where there is a will there is a way. So if kungana will it's a problem. Manje usiye itrabule emumva ukuthi labantu bazosala balwa babulalana bayenza yonke lento. So you need to draft it. It's a simple document ukuthi wena ngiwo lozaziyo ukuthi uwethani unani so into lo ufuna kuyibhale in black and white
mara tonkinyana njabana is it important for him gorangwale will awona sepe awona silo me bra ugcina ka di-cool shoes ba o paetse tsone government awona dipane komzansi so if o le motho into tsa di sa kopane mara ona le bana o etsalang plan ke eng me bro
angithi fika iqale khona lapho because manje ku draft will akusho ukuthi impilo yakho seyiphelela la because usazoba nezinto kunezinto lo usazosithenga because thina abantu most of the time if life iseyihamba kahle siyakhohlwa angithi sinawo ama policies siyazi ukuthi sizofa already sijoinile ama insurance companies so as long as ukuthi mina at the end of the day ngizodlula emhlabeni I need that document le state tako ukuthi even le mpahla lezi lenginazo or le ichathula lezi bangishiye lezona kufuna ukuthi zisale nobani because manje ngaba nefoni ngithi hayi nangishona ifoni yami kufuneka usale nawo but ngoba ikakabhala phansi it's not documented it's not in black and white it's not been signed for it so naso ushonile sekuyaqala sekuyaliwa ukuthi nalo uyayifuna le phone lo munye sothi hayi wangitshela ukuthi if adlule emhlabeni uzongipha le moto uzongipha le phone but kubhalwe iphi evidence because icourt isebenza nge-evidence.
Rekena mata ko episode I'm very interested I'm a darky young man ke a hola la di ditedu ile salt and pepper but I know I'm grounded when sometimes we believe in the things of God sometimes wa bang ba believe la kodintong so you are saying spiritually we are led the Lord will take care of my business even when I passed on so two na personal I don't like talking about death You know, people who are very close to me, even my mom was saying, anyana kakula re mntanami sengizofa ngithi hey mama yangistressa man. Ima kancane. Ugogo wathi uphethwe yini? Akathengi yakhumbula umntata eGodfrey Mloyi bekane box kwakhe endlini. Makagula ngaye ka doctor avula ibox angene phakathi asivalele. So to that man, to that woman, onalento yokuthi no man, the Lord shall provide. And ongena lento ibelieve yakhe isekuthenini ngiphila ngomusa. Wena uringe whether kazihuwa kasisuthu kunabantu abathi thina we are led, we live by grace.
Yes. Into lengayisho uyithashe right because manje siphila ngentando yakhe yakaNkulunkulu emhlabeni.
Yeah.
So uthena kadlula emhlabeni wathi intando yakhe mayenzeke. So nawe that is the will. Which means will isukela from kuphi eBhayibhelini. So intando yakhe manje iyayenzeka emhlabeni siphila lentando yakhe.
Yeah.
So nawe njengoba usaphila emhlabeni na ubhala iwill kuzophilwa intando yakho le uyifunako ama wishes akho. So
that's powerful, yeah.
So isuka from eBhayibhelini akusinto yokuthi nje isuka. So it's from the Bible.
Yeah.
Remember kune will ne testament. So a testament it's a Bible. So iBhayibheli ibhale abafakazi abantu ama-testament ama-witness. So kunema hearsay kunema eyewitness kuna yonke lento lebabhale iBhayibheli. So that's why they call it a testament.
Yeah.
So nabathi thy will be done, which means intando yakhe mayenzeka. So nawe nasongekho intando yakhe izoyenzeka because you leave a legacy that will continue generation to generation.
Excuse me. But ngijampela to the next one. What then happens if your will is not implemented, is not done accordingly? Because your will says, uSimangele noNtswaki noThoko. Nginemoto eziwu-3 bahamba ngale ndlela. But now Simangele feels good. No, listen. When this man was down and out egula, I was the one who was taking care of him. And all of these siblings of mine, they were nowhere to be found, these people. So why would manje mele siye draw? Asibayeke uSimangele noThoko noThabo. Then kunoma ngubani kunoma nkosi. Asithi ibhoza beshanga double barrel. So kwenzakalani because nabo bakhona. Ngithi ngwenye ifike yathi no. Naba abantwana ngicela uyi-unpack kahle uthatha isikhathi sakho kule because kune-family feud kuyaliwa kubodaki indlu yeforum i-RDP iyalwelwa. So what then happens ukuthi lo muntu une-imedi i-imedi according to asikhulume mhlawumbe uyanipeke ngogovernment ithi igazetwe kanjani kuhulumeni then bese siya kuwili yakho yiphi enamandla.
Okay, umthetho ugazete kanjena kuna 3 yezinto ngizosi-unpack zi-3 siyibala siyicala phezu kwe-life partner. Nasicala nge-life partner umuntu lo philisana naye. So lo muntu lo philisana naye is entitled to your assets on a certain month. So if wena uyadlula ba checka ukuthi lo muntu is entitled because umwestele isikhathi uphila naye. As long as
certain months uring njwale mona or certain months iyahlaka yona yo. Bawuthi umuntu ngihlala naye 3 months 6 months 8 months ithini?
It's 6 months. Asibambe sithi 6 months. From 6 months 3 months 6 months. So lo muntu umuntu wakho. Angithi sometimes niyaphuma nambe niyebo Durban, sometimes umthengela impahla umnikeza ilipu uthi ayi lento le jacket nayo ngakulingani uzohamba uyichanger. Inemagama akho.
Evidence.
Uthumela i-cash send, uthumela imali ukuthi hayi baby mina ngibusy ngicela ukuthi uthenga igrocery ngizobuya late because ngisebenza ama overtime or ngiyeke ubukhuphi. Lento le ibuye i-cash up ikubambe because bayibala as a financial dependent. So udependele kuwe financial. So naso ngekho emhlabeni uyakhona claim ukuthi but this person bengidepende kuye financial manje akasekho. So it is entitled to your estate.
Mara me bro ile jwalo se relimetse taps le je batla uphinya mos ka eyona ithatha mtswembu because remember I mean mawuphila nabantu ikhona into yokuthi nesiyaphilisana and umuntu grand. Generously we out and nice. There's someone mhlambo yezwe yakhala and say man into zama zimanga kahle bayakhiye townhouse yonke lenyakanyaka. I'm just making an example. Then you feel good no man this particular person it is a plan. It will I reflect ama hearts ukuthi besithandana nalo muntu whatever. I'm not sure if you know what I mean. I'm not sure whether Mela produce proof ama SMS ezoba detailed ukuthi no le print out iyezokuthatha ithaliwe with obviously the slips okhuluma ngazo. So if lo muntu athi no ngiyacommit ngiyaka understand ubuya le ngikhuluma ngeCherry buye Sun City buye Sun City yabhayiziseka I decide ukuthi look akunankinga mfethu because nako siyaspana let me just mhlamba pledge 5,000 rands every month kwi-account yakho uyabona ukuthi i-commitment le
I-commitment,
so
yeah.
ayibhalwanga lento kwi-agreement okanye kwi-contract
Yes.
kwenziwani ibizwani direct then umuntu sekabuya sekathi no mara le family lo muntu ushiya ama-assets afike kwi-media athi no mina bengiyi-dependent iya-apply
Yes. Okay. Lena lengiyibalako ngiyibala phezulu kwemuntu la nganawili.
Yeah.
Uyabona unganawili ama consequences la yenzakalako because i-will it's a beneficiary.
Yeah.
So ama beneficiary even if umntwana khangekho ku-will ungakamfaki ku-will angeke benefit next. But manje lele ngibala ukuthi if unemuntu lozwana naye regardless ukuthi nisayinile nishadile customary marriage and or what.
Yeah.
But if wena uzodlula emhlabeni uyakhona ukuclaim ama-assets akho uyakhona ukuclaim izinto zakho because lo muntu angithi beka depende kuwe financial for instance ushadile then now ushadile uba nani ne site esayidini now uba ne site kenzakalani usupporta abantwana bale site uphinda futhi usupporta
side chick
yeah uphinda usupporta lo mntwana umisa esikolweni if kuthi wena uyadlula emhlabeni lo mfazi uyakhona kuyenzani ukuclaima i-maintenance phezulu kwemfazi wakho ukuthi mina lo muntu bengiphila naye beka supporta abhadala i-school fees icourt ifuna i-proof ifuna i-evidence beka bhadala i-school fees ayenza yonke into so manje akasekho so umuntu okufuneka asala aqhubeke naleso sikoloti naleyo maintenance i-surviving spouse so that's why if isidlala ama-game kufuneka sokuthi abantu babe careful because people they are not aware. That's why ubona phezulu kwemashow like boba mamazala boyini uthola umuntu seba bathi asazi ukuthi washada nini nomshado yini because lo muntu uye ecourt waba ne-evidence enough bampha i-court order waye e-home affairs bampha i-certificate semshado.
Hayi awusichaza nale certificate somshado mfethu lento kanje izobakhathaza abaningi cela ningakhali ngami nithi askim usibulele-ke mase ujampisile bayabuya-ke manje labo baby mama bayabuya abo concubine abo side chick bayoma ngeenyawo ukuthi sine right basifundisile le kwa Skim GP ku Rings and Bearings ukuthi singahamba siyoclaima then singena kule court lana yeah
okay if umuntu for instance ngilethe customary marriage abantu they are not aware ukuthi i-customary marriage umshado by nature it's civil it's COP
ukhuluma ngencwadi
yemalobolo
uThemba ise incwadi and then makafika ifakile incwadi leyo ncwadi leyo igunyaza ukuthi labantu bathathene lapha or uphuma inkomo ayichaze kahle
okay first abantu nabazwana kubhala incwadi imikiswe lapha kobomfazi so babeke i-date once bavumelana kwahlala phansi kwaba ne-negotiation umshado so that's why abantu kufuneka babe careful before uvumela amalobolo hlalani phansi ni discuss ukuthi nidinga umshado lonjani nibe ne-antenuptial contract ukuthi with accrual or without accrual
ichaze futhi
yes
antenuptial whatever and then accrual awuzichaze lezo
okay so ngichaza ukuthi le contract leniba nayo ukuthi nangena emshadweni ningena ngokuthi okwami okwakho okwami okwakho so if wena ufuna ukukhipha okwakho kufuna before kukhishwa amalobolo ube senivumelene nibe ne contract cause abanye the time sengenile lapha already umshado wamalobolo i-customary marriage is in community of property by nature so people they are not aware ujabulele ukuthi regardless ukuthi bakulobola ngamalini bavelile ukuvela nje noma bangavela nga500 noma nga1000 umshado as long bomalume bahlala phansi kwa sign agreement bavuma kwabane ma witness umshado lo
buthi kunomuntu ohlala eBlock B le esosha kunomuntu ohlala kaHlongo kunomuntu ohlala eShawela eSoweto omunye ulapha evuthe ethwathwa lo muntu uyi-out engangami nawe unomuntu bahlekisana naye mara labantu laba idlulile lento ku5 years idlule ku10 years ngamanye amagama it's an unofficial official you understand ngifuna ukuthini so mawu advisor isihumsha because esouthini lento kuyilento that is why mase kuthi umuntu ubhodile so uzobona ngokuphikiswana lapha umuntu ubani uchief mourner so when you are advising amajita lento yenziwayo omunye nomunye chief uba naye umuntu anaye noma ngekho official on paper but now angithi nabanye bayibiza ngesithembu so if you were to advise umuntu ekuthiwa uhleli nomuntu for isikhathi eside
Yeah.
There is no action. There is no intention.
Yeah, ngiyakuthola.
Ithini advice yakho ke? Akunamshado lapha. Akukhulunywa nix nani, pay as you go.
So into lenga advise ukuthi abantu they need to do the right thing because i-court ayisebenzi ngalento leyo ukuthi lo muntu besingakashadani lo muntu besingaka as long as nizophila together nisupportana financial dependent. So udepende kuwe lo muntu. So you need ukuthi uyenze izinto ezi right. What I can advise ukuthi lo uvele ngoba lo muntu official. Even if you decide ukuthi okay manje ngifuna ukuthatha isithembu or ngifuna kenzani, you need ukuthi uvele because manje na uyifihla izoshaya wena or izoshaya abantwana bakho or izoshaya umfazi wakho wena sowungekho. Yeah, because a lot of people now they are getting educated kubo ma TikTok yonke le ndawo ukuthi kenzakalani. So uzovela lo muntu ahambe aye lapha lo muntu mengiphila naye. This is the transfer bekangenzela sona i-bank statement nazi izinto bekangithengela impahla nangu bekadepende kimi financial. So bakhona okumfaka but lo muntu they need to maintain. Uyabona ukuthi soshiye umfazi wakho enkingeni. So manje abantu bathanda ukuyenza izinto ukuthi uyafihla but at the end of the day ziyavela. Ukhumbula even neBhayibheli lithi izono zebazali zishaya ebantwaneni. So when uzoba sowungekho sowuthulile badinga ama questions, ama answers, but when they abazi ukuthi bazobuza bani. And manje ifamily yakhe yiyo lesisale seyisokola. So abantu they need to be aware ukuthi even if ukhiphe amalobolo umshado and even if ufuna ukuthi uhlukane nemuntu, you don't just go die bekakhiphe 5,000 nema differences then you separate. You need to go to court othola i-divorce settlement or i-divorce decree. Because if awutholi i-divorce decree uyachubeka uthola enye partner, you move forward. Niyahlala uyakha family, you go no sayina e-court. Now fika nisayina ka Home Affairs na sayina. Lo mshado lo wes2 is none and void because i-court i-recognize the first marriage.
Asikusithi inkinga zabantu abanganamali lezi. Asikhulume ngeinkinga zabantu abanemali manje. Billionaires. EAmerica chief kune-cherry nje one, seyishade kayi4. Ishade ne-billionaire bahlukana. Wathatha uhalf. Washada nenye billionaire bahlukana. Uthatha another half. Uthatha enye billionaire. Abafazi they getting away with this. Mhlambe ngithi abomake ke. Uyangithola kungabi ngathi futhi ngiyalwa. I'm just saying ngathi lento iyashaya esijideni. Uyabo? Asilento esimameni ngoba ngathi thina yithi esibekwe ibhutsi entanyeni. And ukunandi ngoba manje sinembokodo endlini. Ngiyayifuna na izothatha i-hot seat la. Izongiphendulela ukuthi kahle kahle siyabangiswa siyalwisa yini or yithi esiyibhayisisa some out. Billionaires. So lento ibona kuthiwa bayahlukana umuntu yangapha. Why are they always able bona to get away with murder? And number 2, kunomuntu onokuthi no, umuntu usabambekile, uzobathi umuntu akafuna ukusayina. Ngifuna uvale ngaleyo futhi ukuthi kunomuntu ekuthiwa abafuna ukusayina. Hey baningi abantu ngena ngapha ukhuluma nobani obana akafuna ukusayina. Yini leyo kusuke kwenzakalani lapho? Nazi imibuzo e2, le ama-billionaire nalabo abangafuna ukusayina.
Okay, ngizocala ngale ukhuluma ngaye ama-billionaire. People now they are aware. They are aware ukuthi umuntu ungena emshadweni afuna benefita something. Yabona? That's why kuwili kunalento lesibiza ukuthi inheritance exclusion. For instance wena unenxusi, inxusi yakho uyishiyela amafa, uyadlula emhlabeni. So kunemuntu ozofuna ukungena umntwana because ufuna kubenefita whatever you have. That's why ubona kulama show lesiba nawo balwela izindlu zefamily. Athi lendlu yefamily but because ushade naye so ungenile umfakile. Do you understand? So that's why when you draft a will, iba nalento inheritance exclusion. So nakashada ushada ngezinto zakhe, akashadi ngelifa leli wena umshiyele lona.
Nazo
So kuma billionaires nebantu labanye labanemali. We've got this thing esibiza ukuthi it's a life trust. So living trust. So we've got a living trust and a deceased trust. A deceased trust, it's where if ushona une will, we create a deceased trust. But a living trust, it's where you don't own anything. You've got things, you've got cars, you've got money, you've got everything, but You don't own it because it's not under your name. Ayibizi wena. So most of abantu labaningi labarich, they are clever because bayithatha avule that trust and maintain it afake lapha. If they go through divorce, bacheck akanalutho lebiza yena egameni lakhe.
Sekungena ama-body of trustees manje.
Yes.
Yibo abantu aba-executor yonke.
Yiyo labantu aba-executor lento yethu. Because uvule i-trust nge-family. Wavula i-trust nge-family, wathatha zonke izinto wazifaka ku-trust. Yena aka-own next. So even lo muntu noma shona, i-estate yakhe ayi-under probate. Because akunayo into la i-ownayo. Do you still remember there was one player le iceda kudivorca ngathi overseas bathola ukuthi u-own ama-Cox phela but it's a millionaire.
Yeah. Icase yamanje.
Yeah. So uthethe yonke into wayifaka ku-trust. Umfazi nakagijimela i-divorce wathola ukuthi hayi lo muntu musibathi akana next.
You.
Akana next. Because kuze into you can't claim something.
Wanyanyi into zakhe zimile.
You can't claim something owazi ukuthi ayibizi wena uzothini uzoyiprove uthini.
So mara manje iyenzeni because ukhulume nge-will wakhuluma nge-seclusion yabo ku-exclude certain things.
Yes.
And then bese ukhuluma nge-trust. So undoda make uyithunge through trust or uyithunge ngale-exclusion?
Uyithunge through trust.
Yeah.
I-exclusion ingena kakhulu ebantaneni bakho because yibo labazosala nelifa. Yes, but i-trust, i-living trust, wena you control it while you are still alive. That's why even the will is a living will. So that you decide ukuthi now saphila on the living will. Uyakhona ukumtshela ukuthi lento lengishela wena, lokhu ngikushela wena, usaphila. That's we call it a living trust. And a living trust, even if you are in the coma, usesibhedlela, life support, the person labantu laba obafakela ku will yakho. Yibo laba khona ukuthi bayakhona ukukusayinela, bayakhona ukuthi if babona ukuthi umshini awusakhoni lo but umshini saw switch off bona they can stop but no uthi uphethine ama powers legally so ukuthi we take decision if yena angasakhoni we sign for him if angasakhoni that we call a living trust. Yes.
Qhubeka mlungu bese ngene ku number 2 manje.
Yes.
So
le bobuza ngayo le yebantu ukuthi manje sesihlile uyala ukuthi so sign. It's a problem. Cause manje usayinile awakasayini these days kuyafana. If afuna ukuthi inherit, she will inherit because manje nakakhipha amalobolo umshado is in community of property. It's just that it's certificate ukuya lapha ukuthi uthola certificate uzosibeka ebondeni and all of those things. Uyabona i-status sokuthi ngishade phambi kwebandla ngasayina phambi kwebandla, all of those things.
Can we therefore, sorry just to chip in because lento ngifuna kahle ngalendlela engifuna ngayo ngoba khona uyifuna ngalendlela vele le ngifuna ngayo. Lento le egcineni if awusayini shuthe kuyolamla igodi la or mele ucross imini ukuthi ungafi because umuntu uhlele endlini kunalento yokuthi kube ama permanent enemies, we understand. So enemies but abantu bahlele endlini because lo muntu una 1 billion abo harmony abangani bakhe kune competition ukuthi mangingadivorce noSimangele kunenkinga sengiyoba na 500 million. I'm no longer a billionaire. Angazi uyangithola. So umuntu uxolela ukuthi no ngamane ngihlale ne-enemy endlini ukuthi nje ngimaintain le B status. Uyangithola. So now the biggest question then ngibuyela kuyo futhi again is labantu bazohlala kuze kube nini lento ingazi ilungele day bahlukana because le mishado miningi mfethu iyalenga
kanje.
Abantu bahlala bathi no omunye sekalala kwenye ikamera omunye kwelinye abantwana nje ukuthi bangaboni lo omunye seba ku open relationship.
That becomes a big problem. Because abantu they need to know ukuthi even noma ngaba nema differences. Now nema differences you decide ukuthi when okay let me move out or ngilale ekamereni or ngithole omunye umfazi ngifika ngiyahlala ngalapha whatever lo accumulator for now still the other partner une share. There was one case yase KZN lo baba lona ba separate 47 years. Wafika
half a century.
7 years bangazwani so uyakhe ifamily yakhe unalabanye abantwana umfazi ungala umfazi washona lo baba bekase Eastern Cape usuke Eastern Cape wafika ngelanga le funeral wathi umfazi wami lo ngizomngcwaba ngalendlela ngifuna ngakhona afike nemaphoyisa ngizomngcwaba ngalendlela ngifuna ngakhona bashadile legally. So that's why I advise ukuthi don't wait, get the divorce done and dusted because if we're not you still uyahlala
Yeah.
lo muntu loyo une-share umshadile lo muntu.
Yeah.
It's just that nema-differences ikhodi alisebenzi ngema-differences lisebenza ngokuthi ushadile this person.
But they would even go to an extent of killing one another, Chief.
Yes, that's the dangerous part. That's why even if ushadile, you need to have a will. So you draft your will with your 50%. Remember, you own 50%, the other spouse own 50%. So you decide with your 50% ukuthi ufuna kwenza kanini ngayo.
Yeah. So makathi omunye no njengoba kuyahlukaniswa kanje ubani we-entitled ukuthi ahlale endlini. Abanye basitake ngaleyo part ukuthi idlahlala igrut, dlala midstream. Yabo? Now iyashaya lento. Le midstream yilo nokubamba ama meetings nani is status for undoda, is status for usister. Drive amaviyano wabantwana. Ubani ke mase kuthiwa kuyanyiwa manje. Sibayisuzelene. Ubani kumele aphume kahle kahle la endlini.
Lapha endlini i-court nanifike e-court yilo leli decide akho depending most of the time i-favor umfazi because unabantwana. Most of the time i-favor
wayifika isiphinya umthola wasukulisa umthola ubhizi wasleya left and right ubhizi kadi Durban July did impitches high so i-court mara iba njani
ngenzakala njalo. I will tell you another story esizwise ubhlungu sakhona la Soweto. Lo mama lo uthenge indlu. Nakathenga indlu ubaba bekangekho. Then he meet this guy. Bahlangana. Nabahlangana. Then they decide ukuthi okay let's share. Nabashada sebashare indlu manje. Mara indlu kabani? Kamama. So baba nabantwana. Nababa nabantwana abayi4. Lo mama kwayenzakala ukuthi uyashona without drafting a will. So lo mama nakashona ubaba wa time. Mina ngisesemncane ngidinga umunye umfazi. Remember if you die without a will, u50% wakho ubuyele emuva kule surviving spouse. Uzoba sele na 100%. And nakasele na 100% kuyenzakalani? If kuthi ashada uzoshare lo 50 wakho nalomunye umuntu. But enunabantwana into ebhlungu ukuthi manje nakasashada ushada njengalo ushade ngendlu lengasi yakhe la ithole ikhona
nesikoloto.
From there so share u50% nalomunye umuntu. Now the sad part ubaba naye the very same ubaba walabantwana. Manje labantwana bebasahlala ne-stepmother. Then ubaba appeal. Ubaba naye akazange ayenze izinto eziright. Nanga yenza izinto eziright ukudraft iwilla protect abantwana. Ubaba naye shonile manje. Basele ne-stepmother.
Siricek.
Nabasele ne-stepmother. I-stepmother sekungwatshiwe kucediwe yonke into naye sowuqale phansi. So ufuna ukushada manje. Is bringing another one. La kulendlu le angayazi ukuthi ibuya kuphi. Ithole indoda yakhe. Indoda yayenzani? Yamngenisa. So manje ufuna kushada nalenye indoda uzochange isibongo first. Bahlala nalenye indoda eCharlton leyi1. Abantwana they are not related laba because it's a stepmother and a stepfather. Abantwana bayapi? Estradini. So babiza bonyawupe manje.
Nemusakele straight. Ayiphimbili.
So babiza bonyawupe manje. Naba estradini as we speak abantwana babayenzele protection order abakhona ukungena eCharlton.
I know it.
Bazalele lapha. Bazalele lapha eCharlton.
How's the solution? Because the problem lesizwile and the problem impi straight. What is the solution? Because obviously legally labantu they are nowhere. Yes, bekhona le but iDNA seyilahlekile because time lapsed.
Yeah. So abantwana bazamile ukuhamba baya housing. Housing yabachela we've got nothing to do because the title deed manje ibhalise ngalo mama. Funa kanemlinde. It's where izowe like in nonke because nina nizongena ngeside laba win lab do you understand? But the risky part ukuthi lona asa change manje change isibongo. It's a change. Yabona? So that's why I see advisor we are out to educate abantu the importance of having a will. Why ufanele ukuthi ube ne will. Even ama shows babone TV ukuthi I will ibalekile. So people they are taking lento lena like for granted ukuthi man ngizoyibona but lelo langa nalifika it's a problem.
Asike sikhulume na into complex yile sivala ngayo ufuna ukuthi uyampeke because ngiyazi abantu ba interested njengami ngiyakufuna nje ku part 2 la sizobuye sehle ngayo kakhulu na indaba yomuntu ohlala avukelwe ne lo muntu umama ngami lo muntu lona uyeza akazi ukuthi ushawo bani but uyazi ukuthi nabo abantu abayidringilele nabo nini uyakhetcha lo muntu uyapreka lo muntu akazi ukuthi lo muntu lo uSimon uAmos lo muntu uZakaria uyabo sekuzofaniswa ukuthi hayi lo lekhanda leli ngathi lika skin leli imali imibhonsi ayiye kanjabulo kanti kwenzakalani so ama cases anjalo lo muntu lo yangithola ukuthi ngifuna ukuthini lencosi then asithi lo lo mnikazi uyashona now lo munye uyayisola lento le nini la decide ukuthi no akuhanjwe kuyenza i-blood test ngoba nithi lo muntu mela inherit i-blood test ifika ichithe vele ukuthi lo mntana bekungasi wakho what then happens
leyo ifichithile depending ukuthi lo baba before ashona bekayenzile iwill ezibe ngiyisho icaleni ukuthi iwill ayisho ukuthi unikeza abantwana bakho kuphela anyone I can give anyone even umuntu that's why uthola abantu babhalile phezulu kwewill ukuthi impahla zami ziye ku-charity imoto yami ngiyinikela ngayo esontweni whatever you decide wena you decide but even umntwana akho ungakamfaki straight la ake ngathola even umntwana ngaphandle njengaye if ayenze iwill yasayina nema witness that's why iwill if idinga ama witness ayi2
ukuthi ngifuna uyichaze kahle uthatha isikhathi sakho ukuthi ubuyapi kahle ngifuna ufake usester manje batshele ientity yonke into. This is not a paid interview, by the way. Yes. So I think abantu they need to understand ukuthi it's important. Yabona, for me, I could have said, hey, bafethu, kahle le ifana ukuthi uze kwa ENCA. So but abantu bafuna ukuconnecta directly now. So I want to put you on azofakwa ama number yonke into la. Lena it's a very sensitive subject le.
Yeah.
You understand? Iyafana ne gender based the way ingakhona. Uyangithola iyafana nama drugs.
Yeah,
lento yini it's just that thina sinaki but yenza ukuthi kube ne verify. Nibuya kuyiphi ientity kahle no sister.
Okay. Tina, what we do, we educate abantu be government.
Yeah.
South Africa, we educate abantu bonke futhi base South Africa. So we go to churches, we go to ama event and all over. Then we unpack everything ukubaleka kwalento leso. Kuthi abantu they need to know kuthi will is very important. They need to know as approach a Will's month in September. That's why everything you must know.
Will's month.
Yeah, Will's month in September. So every time if government go, it's like a holiday, which means it raises a concern. This thing is serious. So that's why it's a Will's month. So a Will's month, which means abantu they need to decide because amakhotha khathele ngema family feuds, amakhotha khathele imali zistakile government guardian fund. Ziningi sihlezi ziyalahleka futhi nokulahleka
ziyatshontsha
ziyatshontsha because abantu imali sihleli sistakile kufuneka uthola letter of executor you don't know where to start, you need a legal representative. That's why but knowledge is power because if you don't know where to start, you don't know ukuthi kenzakalani. Bafuna ama beneficiaries, there is no beneficiaries. So Tina, we go all over, we educate. If you need assistance, we assist you even to draft the will. Kuthi se draft the will, then ihambe yokuhlala ku safekeeping. Then when you are dead, then ingla yophuma khona ku safekeeping kusho ukuthi what draft. Remember will it's a secret. Abantu bayabulalana ngewill. Iwill idinga you one on one. You need to call me, we need to sit down to check how much you're worth, how much unani izinto zakho, then we draft the will.
Asibize imbokodo ngifuna iphane ngama number iphane ngayonke into Harmony ngicela ungisondele la ungilethele usister ambambe ngesandla umsondeze la angikhathi nix because South Africa lokilindile ifuna ukuza Grootman fine young man very smart ngicela ungivulele imic akukhona ukungena usister la hlale ngifudumele manje hayi duma yatsamaya kiyela ya Elohi kikolo hearings and bearings sister ngifuna ukuthi ngiqale nge1 question before siyafera before ubabingelela yonke into ehlangana ilunga nani kune church emasontweni ngengezwe kuthiwa nayi church isuzelene umfundisi uma umfundisi linqamuka phakathi isonto manje awuyichaze ke manje kahle ukuthi abantu because lo muntu leader a congregation of a church boaster mhlambe about 5,000 sitting arrangement then now kubaxabena uma umfundisi baba umfundisi ibhimbile ikhwaya what then happens amandla akuphi ngoba ngathi sometimes abanye abantu bayenza ibe i-NGO enye iba i-NPO enye iba i-NPC kwenzakalani kwenzeka kanjani lapha amabandla phelile manje once ihlukana uma umfundisi bamfundisi yazi lo uyovulela yakhe lo uyovulela yakhe la nike naba nama incident kanjalo mhlambe futhi narrow it down so that South Africans they know.
I think maybe ngendaba zesonto lapho sifike sayilahla khona thina as the congregation, number one is that we don't go to church for fellowship. We go to church for umfundisi. So now makaxabana uma mfundisi noba mfundisi nathi yes sesixakekile ke manje asazi ukuthi siya kuphi. That's when the church actually just falls, because mase sontweni siyohlanganyela sidumise kuphakamizwe eliwani le kuNkulunkulu, and that's it. That's all the church is supposed to do. Sithole ukudla for the soul. And then uma mfundisi noba mfundisi maba divorce angithi abantu benyama nabo. Ukudivorce kwabo shouldn't affect us. Yes, maybe the church will separate because obviously khona abantu abathanda uma mfundisi khona abathanda ubaba umfundisi, but maybe uma mfundisi Nkosi yami akwazi nani ukushumayela.
That's what the fact says, but the truth is singabantu greed and desire.
So
angazi understand, because omunye umuntu kunalento yokuthi if ngiyahlukana nawe ungamanufe wena kunamuntu ekumunye osazolala nawe. Angazi understand na. So now let's talk about it, because in reality nine board, but the board nabo basway into umamfundisi. They like you guys together.
Yeah.
So unfortunately babumfundisi ubona ngenye indlela okanye sekukhona usathana uyangenelela, then ubani oba namandla angathi angcono raphelele or kuya ngokuthi icampaign yomunye strong kangakanani.
It's the campaign and the money. Ubani unemali. Ultimately kuwina umuntu onemali. Kuyo yonke fight. Kuwina umuntu onemali. Moya court, you're going against a big company, you don't have money. The company has money for all the resources that I needed to fight it. So obviously the one who has money wins.
Ufikela ngokufuna khona ke manje wena uwohlaba uhlukanisa okuhle nokubi and uzihengile manje uzifake emalini nase fighting i-corruption ke leyo. So now njani ke kusho ukuthi amagama justice ayikho, even whether we are doing that will, whether we are doing the trust. So if you are saying money wins, so iqiniso likuphi nendawo ke la?
We can't run away from the fact that ifraud iyenzeka. There's a lot of corruption everywhere. We really cannot run away from it.
How do we protect
ourselves? In as much as people, yes, you have drafted a will. You have a will with a financial institution. You tell your wife, baby, mangthula na William, ihleli lapha yana kule financial institution. Now people don't understand. Firstly, people don't understand the contract of their marriage. We are married in community of property. So I obviously automatically have 50%. Now, will mawi draft, umfazi wakho angeke azavele, by virtue of the contract of your marriage, because in a 50% already, like Ashilo Petol, now when you are distributing 100% of your 50%. So manje, umfazi magathatha fundi will, angaboni igama lakhe, uyayidabula leyo will. Noma ngabe orunikeza umama akho orunikeza abantu, but umuntu we all think ukuthi sizo benefit umama ukukhulisela ngithi ucabanga ukuthi kufanele athole something, but or maybe masenze example ngayo umfazi, the minute she doesn't see her name there, you have distributed 100% wakho. So usisi wakho is getting 20%, your mom is getting 70%, Lo is getting 5%. Bese umuntu athi I helped him build this legacy, but I am nowhere in the will. Well, you are not in the will, because if ekufakile ku will, then ukunikeza over and above the 50% that you are entitled to anyway. So that's when ke umuntu decide ukuthi okay, I'm just going to hide this will. Ngizoyenza ngendlela yami. And just to also go back to abantu abashona bangena ma will, how the government then decides. By virtue of the contract of the marriage, the wife is getting 50%. Then le 50% yakho, government unikeza umfazi wakho an additional 25% actually. So the wife is getting 75% and the kids are getting 25%. Now ushadile now nomfazi wakho ngithi unabantwana abayithula. Ngaphandle unabantwana abayi11. So labantwana bakho abayi11 plus these two are going to share 25%. That's what happens.
Sebakhulile manje umfazi is in danger. So because abantu bazi ukuthi babethu sebenzile. Phela remember, enye into umuntu uyaphusha at the age 50 ibhodo liyabile estofini usesenamandla, but at the age 70 kula ubonakala ngathi ngicheck out umuntu uyaphila average mawufika ku70 ibhansela ukuya ngaphambili. Labantwana laba mabeyibheka say umama nobaba baphushile for isikhathi but bayahlukana. Mabehlukana ubaba decide ukuthi no man, ngoba yonke into isasele nami, bantwana bami ngisesenamandla, ngifuna ukuthatha ubaba athatha islay queen. Then kwenzakalani ubaba next week uyashona. Nasi slay queen manje rule and reigning. It's important ukuthi ikhulume la, because I've seen a will bebekhuluma ngento 150 million bakhuluma ngama-assets icompany imile igaya imali every day mara le nto leyana within 3 months beyiphele yonke le nto omunye wafaka omunye uleretical ngapha uloku busy uhlikihla usester uslay queen kwavele kwahlala kwanyiwa straight. So what then happens kuleyo case?
So okay, asiqale kahle ke.
Yeah.
Angithi ubaba udivorceile.
Yeah.
Le 150 million
Or asithi umama ushonile.
uye washona.
Yeah.
Then ubaba usele nayo yonke estate nabantwana.
Yeah.
And then uyahamba ke uyositholela islay queen. There's nothing wrong guys, come on. Angithi ubaba kufanele aqhubeke phela ngempilo yakhe. So usitholela islay queen. Now ubaba makashona without a will. The slay queen is getting 75% of that estate because ubaba akazange azadrafte i-will to ensure ukuthi izinto zabantwana bakhe they stay protected and or to exclude the wife. That's why it brings in abo anti-nuptial.
Yeah.
Decide, are you getting married in or outside of community of property? Because now you are inheriting a whole lot of things. Whether ubaba une 100 is worth 150 million or he owes 150 million. If you get married in community of property, you inherit all of that.
My problems.
Hayibo, ngathi ngimncane nje sengiyo-inherit i-debt 150 million. Why? You understand? And when you start saying to people, sign a prenup, people think ukuthi no, then it's proof yokuthi angimthandi or yabo i-question the love of it. But ultimately, guys, umuntu maseshonile, the law takes precedence. So the law says you are married in community of property, you are one person, so you if isikweletu isikhona isakho nawe. Mangabe kunama riches awakho nawe. So i2 to 1 it all balances.
Please now explain the prenup, man. Sorry.
I prenup, like Beth had said, and there's a lady also on TikTok who always just explains I'm a prenup. With the latest time you can actually sign a prenup. Mase sithi late. On that Saturday, mabakokota lapha sikhulekile kamlethane sizocela isiho semanzi mina nomkhwenyana sitshopela ngapha siyasayina siyaqeda before bahlala phansi abomalume kwa exchange with 10 rand.
Asilungiseni because yabona lento zabantu abayi2 iyahlupha. Man signer ni signer in confidence or ni signer bese niyayithatha iyekistini iyohlala esafini lento ni signile yini? Is it a contract? You need to.
It's a contract.
Half daily contract. Belikaqi sinenkinga sisibhekile international. Yanyiwa kune Johnson and Johnson contract. Bad chief.
It's that you know the
awukhulumi ngama Johnson.
No.
Masiba ne problem.
No, it's not.
Right.
It's not that Shelley contract. No. Now, unfortunately, masibukela like in social media in our TVs.
Yeah.
Prenup is mainly brought up guma, like I'm going to make an example in the Queen.
Yeah.
When it was brought up by the Khoza family. They're rich.
Yeah.
So yibabantaba bring up abo, let's sign, we need you to sign a prenup.
Yeah.
Now, we think ukuthi prenup yabantu rich. Kanti prenup yabantu ukuthi I am protecting whatever it is that I'm going to leave for my child. It mustn't form part of this marriage, thereby forming part of the divorce settlement.
Yeah.
So man sign a prenup, let's tulo less will forever be yours.
Yeah.
Whether niyahlukana or ninza, this chair will forever be yours. This chair will forever.
You
are going to remain a centennial. Yes, that's why
omunye umuntu unerita ismoke kuphela omunye izinto. So izinto zakhe azilahleki.
That's how you build generational wealth.
Wena uma ke wena usisi kwaba intombazana umfazi. Lento ikwenzela isense because asike sikhulume ngalento manje yangempela. Ngithe the truth. Ngithe manje the fact. So the fact is siyathandana. The truth is inhliziyo ayiphakelwa. Ufuna lento ifunayo and you are saying next Harmony waphinya mrena. Awutsibi urukari no rikeni uduthi kalrawole one. Why are you saying ufuna prenup situation what? Ndifuna wena mina. Wena mawuzala uchacha isibelotho sami uyangemithisa ngiba nama stretch marks mana yonke into. The next thing ufuna ukusayina ama half prenup.
Yabona ukuthi why before abantu bashada they should have such conversations.
Yeah.
Because then we are avoiding ama divorces because khona manje if we have these conversations before sishada then I know for a fact ukuthi uHamon ufuna i-prenup and mina ngifuna, so I'm not going to get into that marriage because I'm looking to gain nampela and also maybe understand ukuthi what does it mean actually and what kind of prenup is it. Like Ubet said, with accrual or without. Yes, ngiza nama-million ami kulo mshado lo. Let's sign a prenup to protect ama-million ami currently. But we are signing a prenup with accrual.
Yeah.
So what that means is that
Indoni accrual.
esizithola sesiyi-2 manje sengu-Mrs.
Yeah.
Yizo lezi sizo-share.
Oh yeah.
So but leya million engene nayo eyami. It's forever
Mara
mine.
njani?
My
So,
house is mine.
Asithi ke uhamoni une plot.
Yeah.
Une plus. So le plus linenkomo, le plus linamabhoholi na yonke into. Abodaki fashion entsha manje. Yeah, bani nobani une plus.
Yeah.
Uyangithola? Indaba ziqedwe eplazini. Makwama what sihlale ema estate akungeneki laphana. Nange funeral ngeke ibanjwe la. So yonke into efamily eplazini. So then kusho ukuthi ngawe magama makangena umfazi kaHamoni. Ahlala yovakasha eplazini. Akapeyinelwa makabona le plus azi ukuthi le plus leli kube no accrual kwaba ne prenup. Le plus lela kana nix yokwenza la.
Uzadla ngabantwana. I think
Abakuloyi banani la kodwa.
that's why bababulala. That's why we find all these.
So
murders.
arivumelani linyalo ku scam.
No, it's not.
No. Asingene kuma comment section.
No.
Rings and bearings. Siyabuwa mo. Mr. Chivat, muna, what does it say in the spirit, Chief? Chief.
Mawuhlangene ne-scammer siza sithi siphethe umshado.
Yeah.
Then unfortunately ungene emshadweni ne-scammer.
Yeah.
Tinder swindler.
Yeah.
Akusukuthi umshado is-scam. Why abanye abantu bahlele emishadweni for all these years kumnandi?
Gents,
And
union
even
building
when
as Protestant minds. Yeah, fit.
You like
campaign straight minds. Our mama one side over one side. We are building the country, Chief. Angeke ngene ngento. Mina mangifikile kancinci sipinile into zami zihlangene. Abo mama kaningi uyafika itsida sekufe ubaba whatever then iyabuya. Thi kube kusele enye into manje yenzakalayo. Not to deviate from the actual norm. What happens now is abantu baba ama celebrity batrowile. The next thing kuba neflop bayahlukana. Uke wabona ukuthi abantu ababhayizisekayo kulento kuba issue yamajita. Imedi or ichero or umfazi once emuvile on umuvile uzokubophisa chief lokulandelela. Hayi mara bo sister mfana. Banokubeka ibhusi entanyeni. Makumele umuve wena sekayenza istory se uyadragwe intweni nini ufuna ukudila nawe direct. Akafuna ukudila nomfazi wakho onaye. Akazi ngithola nana ngifuna ukuthini. So noma ngabe kunama issues wabantwana bayalwa labo sisi vela kutshela ukuthi hey mina ngishadanga nalomfazi wakho or mina nginomntwana nawe anginamntwana nalomuntu wakho lo then sisolve kanjani because abomama kuba ngathi kunamandla lawa serious wangempela anginankinga nabo but into important ukuthi amajita yabhayiziseka bakwazi ukukhuluma yonke into ithathwa bayilidele to gender based violence about to raise ama issues amajita abhayiziseka kabhlungu ngwabhekile mina umuntu umbona akutshela ukuthi mfethu ingcozi zami ngiyohlala ngaphandle mara makuyimedi uyakwazi ukuthi asondele abokhata makiwa kwi-case eyokuthi uHamoni wenzeni baya bayi8 ngamaven mara mawungaya wena uyovula into bafika badama mara chief nawe uyalandelela manje lo muntu iyamfana ufika umshaye ngo-open ama-twins uzobuya understand uyayithola
you go to court. I don't understand why abobaba basaba ukuya e-court. Sihlukene ngokudinaya i-access to abantwana. Ngiyakulwisa nje yonke into nje is a fight. Go to court. Because mina nawe masihlukene wena ungafuni ukusupport abantwana ngukise court. So why are you not dealing with me ngaleyo ndlela leyo? So fakuliwe ke manje sokulandwa amaphanga sokuba yiyo yonke lento yenzakalayo. But go to court. Men do also have rights. Yes, the court always favors the female, the mother. I understand. But you have evidence.
In her drunken state.
You collect evidence. We understand. You collect evidence because the court believes in evidence. So this person is a drunkard. She leaves abantwana, she doesn't take care of the kids. Yimi 100% oyenza izinto zabantwana. Ubhadala school fees wenza this wenza that. Mara mongicela umntana ngeweekend kuthiwa akezi lapho kuloyo mama loyo mfazi wakho loyayo sekayaloya phela umfazi wakho angithi. Yazi sahlukana phela intombi yakhe nje yaloya wonke umuntu yalo noma makho loyayo ngini naloya nonke. You go to court. You just go to court. You have all the evidence. I always tell abo even the baby mamas, the single parents. Guys, when the importance of a will is that you nominate a guardian. The most important thing. Because unomntana nomasaga. Umasaga, we go around to facilities, we give presentations, we talk to people. Mangikhuluma laphayana ku facility ngiyakhuluma you nominate a guardian. What that means is that umntanakho who's under the age of 18 by law and it is a minor. So that person needs a guardian. Now I'm a single parent. Umntana ngimkhulisa nomamam. Automatically, I think umamam huye ozothatha over ngithi uzoba nomntana. So I don't draft a will.
Yeah.
Now, the law says the natural surviving guardian is the parent. So umasaka uzomthola umntana. And umasaka now knows ukuthi bosebenza.
Yeah.
So unemali ngithi. Imali yomntwana manje umasaka has access to it because they can withdraw up to 250,000 from the government fund yomntwana per annum. So umasaka uyayithatha uzohamba yomlwela lo mntana lo ukuthi azokhona ukuthi athole lo mali. So nathi ekhaya sesele maybe silwela loyo mntana loyo ukuthi umntana buyi, but umntana has been taken and every minute counts because umntana uthathiwe maybe for even 6 months. Kule 6 months bayampoisona ngalo. Ukuthi umama wakho ugogo wakho bekathanda umama wakho ngoba umama wakho bekasebenza umama wakho njengoba shonile khona manje uxoshile asakufuni ngizokunakekela mina mntanami. Siyalwa lapha and we trying to prove ukuthi no, this guy was not there for this child. There's no financial support, there's no emotional, there's nothing. There is no relationship between this guy nomntwana. By the time we are done, the damage is done.
Yo. Alright, ithi ngikhulume nabo pipi ready ke. Lezi ezishaya inkawu ntswemu, abo Penwell, abo Scheme. Uyabona? Lezi ezibulele nya, ngabe una 8, una 10, una 5 yeincosi. Kunenkinga ke manje, you are caught up between a solid place and a hard rock. I don't want to say kunabantu abathatha advantage. They would render you paralyzed and useless because kufuneka into efunakalayo. Kahle how thin should I stretch myself in terms of obviously taking care of ama needs wengosi? What is the limit? No, if I'm asking the right questions and the relevant questions, because kunento yokuthi kunesikolo. Ama saying schools now. Abadlali bafuna 120,000 ngonyaka. Nini angakabali mina lama extramurals. Banokubuya nje bakutshela ukuthi hey lo mntwana lo une ADHD too flex kakhulu. Mele simtone down. Lamapilisi aseceleni nini kune assessment evumbuka nje esikhaleni. Onyake ngifile man. File udabukelwa amapokodo straight. Nini kunama camp esikolo. Nini sekunebhola ekumele uyangithola. So what then happens if we timer and then kunalo mama mara lo baby mama thola ukuthi yo ukuphathisa ikhanda kabuhlungu kuno baby mama mabathi baby mama drama buza ke abantu abahleli ku front line bona labo pipi ready bayayazi lento engikhuluma ngayo. How much is enough in terms of taking care of lento? Angikhulumeli into yokuthi yena umntwana umzelo wakho mara kunala kuthiwa ngathi lento seyasetshenziswa, it's weaponized against the out. Uyabhadala school fees, ubhadala transport, ukudla lapha endlini ngoba lencosa uhlali nayo. Kahle sike siyikhulumeni la without mentioning abantu siye deep kakhulu nathi, but ngifuna ukunderstand ngoba kunala seyigcina seyiye court. Thina sabantu yabona thina bobaba ubulayisa lento ukuthi uthanda ukurelax. Ngiyabakhulumela abangiyanizamela uma Devon. Sithanda ukurelax amfethu man lento ngizoyibona. Kancane no I'll see tomorrow. Le ndaba ye procrastination I know not now. You understand? Ngizoyenza kusasa. By the time uthi bye sekune flop. Zila ubhodile incosi sali yahlupheka because isele nomuntu obombona ukuthi lo muntu off. You couldn't fight the battles while usamile. How much is enough? Yini kahle kulento esengizibalile that you need to take care of. Because mawuye court ifika ikutshela ukuthi wena nthabi sengwanyela wena Susan wanyela ayo taba ya how
Cut.
enhle kahle cut yonke lamasimba lawo. Lo muntu lo you are spending 25,000 instead of spending 4,000. Lo angithi nayo nizele nayo lo mntwana. Ngicela usadvise labusabo baba sizizwile man esithwele kanzima.
Well, you know what? When it comes to maintenance, I can't give a professional opinion.
Yeah.
But njengomuntu ophilayo, I would say, I mean, you do what you can when you can, so that unfortunately, abo baby mama yabona mhlawumbe sengabahluphayo, but khona abo baby mama aba right, so that
bakhona
baningi.
Ngiyafakaza lokho. Yeah.
Umuntu
abanenhliziyo ezigrand.
Umntana ombhadalele yonke into, ischool fees, i-transport, uthenga ukudla the day ungasakhona ukuyenza leyo nto leyo, I understand ukuthi abusengathi no yazi mina shem lo muntu lo ungenzele kahle uyabo uyasho nawe ngithi ukuthi angisakhoni lana angisakhona ukwenzani asincedisane umuntu akhona ukulana. So now it goes back to your relationship need to ukuthi kahle siyisima kanjani sabantu or siyilwane nje vele thina soyi2. Because i-greed yomuntu, how do you then expect, okay fine, bayenzile abantwana ngithi uzakimi sozoyenza umntana wesi-27. Now nami I still expect ukuthi umntana maye kuma-private school nani forgetting ukuthi le 26 le
nayo ilapha
ino 50%. Le 26 le labo ma-baby mama labo abanye abayi-26 bayabhadala uhalf. You understand? So mina I get there because ngiyabona ukuthi uhlala ulanda abantwana bakho bahamba ngamaviyana, abantwana bakho basema private school. Nami sengiyafika ke sengenza umntana because nami ngifuna umntana maye ku private school. Now you can't
ngale omunye nomunye uzibambele
but kubambisenwe lana now wena ufika ngengqondo yakho yokusa
100%.
ufuna 100% you don't understand ukuthi kwenzakalani bese uyathukana ke in uye court mofike court bavele bathi cut but he's already doing enough.
Yeah, court bafana.
Court
straight la cut. Ayikho yonke le nonsense. Awusingaphela madoda.
Because court ifunani the evidence. Abantu beza nama bank statement, beza nama pay slip, uza nayo yonke into ukuthi I'm already paying 1 2 3 and 24.
Yeah.
I'm doing 1 2 3 and 6.
Yeah.
What is this one doing?
Ufunani?
Absolutely nothing. You want more. Now that's where the danger is. They now draft the will.
Yeah.
Now this person, the last baby mom, mhlambe uye ke laba bangabazange balobole and whatnot.
Yeah.
But lo mlobolile.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because ukhohlakele senhlukene. Now, this person is getting 50% of your estate because wena you didn't draft your will.
Khale.
And 25%. Now the 25% must be shared by the rest of the kids that are coming. So uyambona loyo muntu loyo. So now the benefit also of the will that we have is that you create a trust.
Yeah.
You can create a trust that protects yena lo baby mama lo ngenangqondo kanje.
Yeah.
Because why would you want this person to inherit a lump sum?
Yeah.
Umuntu onjalo
Yeah.
who shouldn't be inheriting a lump sum. You create a trust for this person.
Yeah.
Uhola every month. Number 1 unceda yena.
Yeah.
Number 2 unceda abantwana umntanakho because umuntu ongena who has never successfully handled 10,000 right. Bakhona always say guys umfazi wakho uyamazi or maybe umasaka wakho lo shade naye uyamazi. They have never handled money successfully. Umuntu ngamnikeza project khona manje this month uthi yeah baby ngibhizi ne. Thatha le 4,000 uyenza grocery. Uyazi wena mawuhlale kwenzi makuyime ngenza grocery every month. I4,000 is more than enough. Ngibuya nayo yonke inyama nesalmon nayo yonke into.
Wayibeka kamnandi.
Abuye nayo yonke inyama enganamathambo. Abuye naleya beef esethinini, abuye nama chicken livers. Loyo muntu loyo uzomshiyela 40 million.
No.
What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
You're expecting this person to raise umntana na 2 until the child is 21 or 18.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it. They don't know how to handle money. And also ilaba abangakwazi ukuhandle imali because ba slow. And then kunalaba abaninhliziyo ezinhle.
Yeah.
Abomama siyababona la ngaphandle nabo baba guys siyababona umama ushonile or ubaba ushonile or the spouse dies.
Yeah.
Leeches come out from the rocks. Chomi lalela. Uyakhumbula leya project yama truck.
Yeah.
Now ama truck chomi i5. Lethi imali sothenga ama truck ahamba yothenga ama truck apha ama truck namhlanje awekho akusakhulunyiswana imali ehambile 5 million ehambile ama truck uzibani had a problem ye school fees so ncedisa ubani so balancise lo yana so wenze imali iyaphela imali yaphela then you go to I blew it so kufanele ubuyele kini ke manje and kini uphume lapho bathuka ngibhowe emshadweni nina mafitwa ini uzobuyela lapha kule yandlu.
So asivale ngala eyalabantu uthola ukuthi kusetshenzwe blind and makusetshenzwe le out feel ukuthi no ba buildile mhlambe nale cherry. Asithi omunye usebenza City of Johannesburg ucherry uza ngeplan iSouth Africa le corruption rife. Yeah, ingene infiltrate even the men in blue. And ngeke sifihle le even ama courts kunjalo njengoba usho yonke into influence. Asithi kuyenzeka decide omunye ukuthi no man ngoba mina ngiyicherry and the City of Johannesburg kune gap lo cherry eze afake i-out iqale manje ihlanganisa ama-10 ibamba ispark wena ku procurement ni builder nonke ni2 ni builde nithenga indle 14 million e-estate kwenzeke sekufika isikhathi i-out mase yaqala idazini lo muntu lona bafethu ngibamba umoya kahle hlehle le frog figure le ayi ngishaye ngaphakathi and lo muntu slow and ngapha lo muntu khana umbona ukuthi mdala nakimi bekho every day mavuka ebusuku awuthi ngishayela hey ngapha uyalunywa umrobhozo hey uyabona ukuthi mudimu hey ngifake manje la lo muntu lo makahleli uyabhodla kuphela uyambona lo muntu lona umuntu onjani lo nihle nabantwana la cha ushaya impukane la uyabona lo hayi lo muntu lo lana ngalubhebhe uhlanye uyabona so u decide ukuthi hayi ithi ngibona uvela uthola omunye umuntu uthi ayithi ngincenge naye lo muntu lo mawuthi uncenga naye kancane u decide ukuthi amfethu yazini asimove on mina sengifuna ukuyothrowa la but thola ukuthi la ucedanga kahle ngoba lo unekwali lakhe lokuthi unje wenziwa yimi noma ngabe namhlanje sokunje kahle lento yonke bowungayiboni sekhani uyibona manje ngoba naso umnandi sometimes phela kusukuthi isilambile siyabhayiseka kanani ukuthi awunamali awukho mubi awukho mpunga awunanyuku the don't enyuku isikhumba sifaka ivaseline then lo munye naye sibayenza umthangala wabo ukuthi no ngeke uhlala isikhathi eside sikhulumile neGrotman iyayichaza lento ukuthi bahlala nomuntu ngoba nezinto you're taking care of business uyayithola kusho ukuthi ngamagama lento say official so ne parallel structure ngamanye amagama what happens then kuye kuyisikhathi imedi le kuyiyo official ababuilda nayo I decide to keep isibani ukuthi alenja le yayiye le inqunywe angithi akakazi ukuthi nawe sowuhambile waphindwa yoshada futhi again nalola kwenzakalani the day kuthiwa nangu lo muntu la umbango or umfango.
The first wife is the one olojole kuqala.
Yeah,
that's the recognized wife.
Seyanguthi ubani ofaka indlebe zembongo lokuqala.
Or I always say keep that letter yamalobolo.
Yeah.
So that you can actually just go back uyosua now.
That's why banquma
breach of promise because uhleli nami you wasted my time. I could have been married in 2019 but you strung me along.
Yeah.
So uhambile ke so yoshada nomunye umuntu you can't just nje ungena uphume udobe uphume uhambe.
Yeah.
You know? So people sue. So kuyasuwa phela la ekhaya manje. People sue against your estate, you get your monies and life goes on. And then now what I actually wanted to mention was so the drafting of a will is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Now sesi draftile will. Cholakele no problem. Nagoge now we need to execute the will.
Yeah.
The masters then says the overall estate yakalo muntu lo is worth more than 250,000. By law in South Africa, that one needs an executor to wind it up. An executor is a professional.
Yeah.
So now, masiphuma lapha yena kaMasters sesixayikile ke sesiyofuna lawyer. Siyahamba siyofuna lawyer. Now all of a sudden, everyone is a lawyer. There's a friend who's got a friend who's a friend who's a lawyer. Sesiyamthola ke lawyer. Then the executor then comes in. Now the executor, what the executor actually does is just yokubukanga izinto zakho. They advertise your debt because I'll show neskweleta unfortunately. They advertise your debt. If there's kids under the age of 18, a trust fund needs to be created. Because imali yomntana fanele trust account is like a garage where we park izinto zabantwana until they are of age.
Yeah.
So now and then if there's property, movable or immovable, fanele conveyance on it. Now that's another batch of lawyers. It date be saying mentioned. So these four are the most crippling. And yonke lento le ifuna imali. So now when the executor comes in at 3.5%, including VAT of 15%, it's 4.025%.
Yeah.
That's the iceberg now.
Okay.
Because yes, na iwili khona, si happy, usimentionile sonke ubaba, si sharp. We understand. Now, ushilo baba ukuthi indle phepuli yakulo, indle njani yakulo yana indle njani. But now, indle phepuli kufanele lisuke egameni laka baba. Baba ushonile ngithi can't own anything. So fanele lisuke egameni laka baba, iye egameni laka the beneficiary.
Yeah.
Now the conveyancing starts. Bafuna imali. That's when the executor comes in, athathe imali yakhe, afuna imali yakhe naye uyazazi ukuthi uzothola malini. The conveyancing yazi ukuthi uzothola malini. The debts are this much fanele kubhadalwe. And then if there's kids, the board of trustees nabo need imali yabo so that they can create a trust. Now with all these funds added up, they say gubuyi invoice. I call it an invoice. When it comes back from the lawyer, the invoice comes back, but he still le mali le so that all of this can be done.
Yeah.
Nizothola izindlu, nizothola imali, nizothola yonke leyo nto leyo kufanele niyithola. The family doesn't have that money. How much esenza kanjani ke masingena mali yalo nto leyo? No, we're going to have to go back to the estate check ukuthi imali khona na. Now if the estate does not have money, imali go estate would be your investments, your savings, you understand? So now if there's no money in the estate, then they have to liquidate. That's why you find kumashow bathi ubaba uye washona, u-auntie ufikile namalawyer wakhe bathengisa indlu abayithengisanga. Unfortunately, because there's costs of winding up an estate, they needed to create the money if the money wasn't there. My example is my dad died in 2011. When he died, they were done winding up estate in 2013.
Yeah.
I mean, I was young, but I wasn't young. I wasn't interested. Being as when my brother said, this financial house is going to wind up the estate, I was like, I have no idea what winding up of an estate is. But anyway, umdala. So when uzasitshela ukuthi senze, which is what happens vele in our families. There's always the older one who's just automatically appointed vele ukuthi hayi wena uzorana nayo yonke into kufanele sizozwa ngawe thina. So my brother then was take her through sahamba sibele siyabizwa nje ku that financial house uzanizo sign. Now if the topic here yama will and estate planning was spoken about at that time and I had listened, maybe it was part of our conversations, maybe in my private private space, then I would have drafted a will with that particular financial house. Why? Because I didn't pay anything. We didn't pay anything. Yonke into yayenziwa isathola nathi change yakaba bethu. You understand? Now, what I missed was that we didn't pay anything because my dad's estate was cash rich. It wasn't asset rich. So when it's asset rich, that's where now liquidation might take place. Because the cost then dlula imali ekhona ku estate. So because my dad was a pensioner, imali yakhe bosoku imali ehleli. So the executors, they took the conveyances, they took their money, the debts were paid, and then thina basinikeza ushenji. So that's where we miss it. That's why we have ama shops kulele lokishini. Before bafika abantu bathatha iPiza shops zethu khona manje sekungana iPiza shops zethu. It's because those shops besokuthengiswa ayikho. Babulkhele makashona, the shop just goes down. Siyabona kuthengiswa ini sokuqediwe. Why? Because when you die, your estate gets frozen. That's the law. So now akusena mali engena endlini. Ukhumbule ukuthi abobaba bakudala ngithi not all of them had investments. So imali ya shop ingene accountini yakhe vele. And then umama uthola imali from ubaba. Yonke into sithola from ubaba. You understand? So now ubaba ushonile, this is all frozen. Asina mali yokustoka. Asina mali yokuthela ipetroli. Asina mali. Now we can't sell the car ukuthi siphile. So then what do? Sithengisa itayere. Nini sesithengisa engine. Sela amagogoko. Sela amabonda emalokishini. Why? Because of the costs. The costs of winding up. Because we used to think ukuthi angithi how ubawulkhela ushonile ayishuthi umfazi kabawulkhela useless.
Nama-taxi ayi-40.
Bayidlile nje imali. Bayiqedile.
Bathi imali kamufi ne?
Yeah, uhambe nento zakhe. Uyaphethe asiye emgodini. Ngihambe nama-taxi ke. Ngihambe nendlu yami. Yonke into vele bahambe. We understand? So okay fine. Mhlambe ubaba uNkosi wase Davidton mhlambe uhambe nazo izinto zakhe vele mhlambe uyakwazi ukwenza izinto uhambe nendlu nayo.
Bekathwele.
Mara bonke.
Yeah.
Bonke iGauteng yonke iMpumalanga iSouth Africa yonke bonke labo baba bahambe nento zabo.
Kula silahle khona sesiyoyidopa manje. Ngifuna sivale ngale. Manje isikele emnasa sisha. Iyenzeka kanjani lento lena? Ngizwile bathi nomuntu abathi Rosemary. Yeah, uyabhalisa athi Harmony lekhanda lakhe ngifuna ukuthi ngimthathe ngithi yong bese ngiyaminsure. Yeah, makaya gone ngenza inyuku ngaye. What is that? Awuyichaze nje net layer party leyana. Then bese uyabatshela amagama ibongo nibuya kubazokuthola kanjani ama number. That's how we wrap it up.
Hayi Rosemary
Uyamsaba. Uthi so
am I protected?
Yeah. Usafe. Yeah.
Ukusa kwabantu guys. Honestly, ukusa nje kwabantu because wenzeni ngale mali?
Okay, senza njani? Ubona kanjani mase bakubhalisile ngekhanda lakho?
Angeke uzubone phela. Ngithi okusala mina ngiyakubhalisa, ngibhadala ama premium mawushona, imoto lama BI and everything ngiyahamba ngiyoclaim. Angeke uzubone.
So ngamagama sikho safe. Umuntu angakubhalisa nje afuna ukubhalisa.
But now angithi ama financial houses now what they're saying is if there's a certain amount of money. So if ngiyaku-insure ngithathe life cover maybe maybe ngi-insure nge-500,000 you have to consent.
Oh, melo sayi.
Yeah.
Mara manje abantu badala musabanye abalandeleli and
lapho engayenza imali khona ilezi zama 10,000 50,000 here yabo like what she did. Like 10 15 20 lapha yana.
Consent. Let's say bak-insure nge-1,000,000 So uzoza bakufundise contract before usign wena ukuthi bang-insure le
imali. Yeah, you have to know.
But are you aware that even this weekend khona perhaps onyongcwatshwayo mari family hlangahlangene ayimazi bekasebenza lo muntu or bayazi basebenza but they don't know benefits whatever sithi ushona sekagula lo muntu
Yeah.
but there's always a tsutsurutsutsu ngabodaki yonke into ayikho into ecut right kunama blind spots uma kushona umuntu kuyaqala kuduma ikhanda manje whether will or not I am telling you into kadaki abodaki
Yeah.
baneimfihlo siphiri.
Well, angithi if uyasebenza, the first thing we do ekhaya sizoya emsebenzini wakho.
Yeah.
Emsebenzini wakho they have all these particulars. That's where we see ukuthi okay bekabhadala kuphi siyafona siyaclaima first fanele kuphume letter of authority angithi.
Yeah.
Abomakoti balimala kuphi?
Matras abanye bambile.
Bafumbethisa ingubo lapha yana. Bayahamba bayolanda letter of authority.
Yeah.
Abakubali. Mababuza lapha yana ukuthi lo muntu lo ekashadile bathi no. Yangashadanga. I-letter of authority yaphuma ke seyiphethwe umalume. Wena uhleli lapha yana lo lubhizo yakhala. But mabaye emsebenzini because umuntu that's why it's important ukuthi umuntu akahleli into zakhe. Emsebenzini uyabhala ngithi kunayo that thing ye nomination.
Yeah.
Uyasho lapha yana ukuthi my wife. So your wife bazomfuna emsebenzini ukuthi ayibo sicela nanga umuntu kuthiwa my wife. That's why iwill nayo noma ngabe bathi hayi umalume sekayifihlile iwill but because ngiyazi mina as the wife ukuthi no mina indoda yami ine will endaweni so angeke ifunde iwill ngingekho because I'm going to call these people and say guys so wenzakele isigeme kuso.
Yazi lento ne idakwe amakhosi ngisho sibonile perhaps the biggest king arguably in Africa yafundwa publicly so kuyinkinga serious kune faction yangaba kuthiwe no legitimizing lento kuthiwe no la kune fraud ehambayo so what more ke ngohamoni ngikhuluma ngabantu abakhroti abanama bodyguards abana yonke lento nani I think i second coming sesiyayibona ukuthi it's eminent iyabuya but ke nginikhulumela namhlanje gents phumani kulento le speed trap yabona sihleli nabo nochaka la mhlamba ku-insurile nawo bhekanga so I think vandag this was the most interesting episode abantu bazoba woke ngicela ubagaya amagama wonke aphelele the entity and ukuthi nitholakala kanjani eGrootman.
Igama nguTsolofelo Moletsane.
Yeah.
Ngihamba ne-manager yami uPetro Ngomani.
Yeah.
We are from a company called Capital Legacy.
Yeah.
So what we do is we actually provide insurance for your will.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, ukuthi the legal cost of winding up the estate, that's what we actually provide.
That's right.
So people just mistake it or would say because we are insuring your will, so you have to draft a will with us. If we could insure you will like in a bank or with the lawyer, I'm sure we would. Okay. But now we can't because umuntu ma draft will now lawyer.
Yeah.
So calculate my executor fees wako. So yazi ukuthi uzothola malini. So now mangifika mina ngithi no this person uzibhadalele zonke lezi zinto lezi you're not going to be happy. Uzoba ne problem. So we provide, you're not paying for the will. The will is free. Everywhere you go, your will is free. Okay. We have a free will, but we have benefits to cover the legal costs so that the estate is not compromised. Because when ucabanga ukuthi ushiyela abantwana bakhe 2 million, but legal costs come, so abantwana sabatholi 400,000.
Faka ama number ke fast swabhala lapha phansi Capital Legacy nazi ukuthi nenkolota madod. Bawunfonela phela abantu la.
I-number zami 073 350 9467.
Asiphinde.
073 350 9467. It's always best to call or just send a voice note to WhatsApp. Abantu mabathumela ama WhatsApp bathi hi. Ameli i-response. I won't respond. It's busy.
Sivalile. Bafethu ningafi niphile la before silungisa into zethu man. Asimplify. Kunama asifaka amanye la. Khona amanye?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hoy, faka yonke number. Hayi, khuleka khona screen nazovela la.
We are available everywhere.
Yeah.
So we go to every province.
Oh, noma province wonke. No, it's fine. I think what we'll do bazongifakela wona ngicela ningithathele screenshot salama number njengoba vele kanje so vele swaphophe kanje mawuse province yakho awudingi ukuthi uzuye ngapha head office uzongena udile nama manager abanawo lapha until the next episode you keep well and stay blessed.
Thank you.
Salute.